Okay. So shaft guide is what I'm going to jump into. Shaft guide, let's see here. We did fixture cap. What shaft guide? Is it? I think it's in inches, right? Inch template. Oh yeah. So if I just look through the assignment, yeah, shaft guide, it's kind of one that we would need to like, oh, double scale is what I'm asking for. So we'll see if we can fit it. And then kind of determine which three views. Of course, I'm giving you the heads up. It's going to be a two view process. If you did the right side view on this, it would be maybe not any new added information that would add clarity, or I wouldn't need it to dimension it. I think I can sufficiently dimension this object and its features with two views. So that's kind of like the fixture cap in a way. The hard part is knowing when to omit those if you're not given the heads up on them. I think that's the difficult part. We'll probably work into that on kind of an assignment at some point, like you trying to pick the views. It's hard to pick the dimensioning that you need. It's also kind of hard to recognize views up front, what may or may not need. That'll come with time though. Usually it'll come once you've drawn a bunch of stuff and you've realized you don't need that view. That's usually how it came in my life, you know. And in 3D models, that's so much easier just to like snap too many views and be like, oh, delete that one quick. In CAD, it's a little bit that, labor intensive to have drawn a view that's worthless. So maybe with 3D programming, it's a less concern I have because I'm just like, oh, I can delete that view, snap that view, whatever. But so this kind of gives us this direction we're gonna head on this one. And the other thing that I'll add here, oh, we're gonna add this note. So I've kind of just got this note that I'm gonna add to our drawing. This I think I have it on this too, don't I? Yeah, yeah. I've had it for a little while on the assignment sheets, but now we're just gonna add a similar note to our um, drawing. Just a general note that would be. So one little added detail there. I can do that at the end. It just says put it on the paper. Don't like put it in the viewport with the model. Like put it on the paper, like where your title block kind of goes. Um, yeah. Just make sure you don't drop it into auto space. And yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but then it'll move with you, and instead of staying right there on the paper. Yeah. Exactly. And it uses two different types of text, which you should have. And if you don't have it, then that'll be a little bit of a problem. But it's just because that first one is the double size text, and the other one, what it says though is just so. What I wanted to briefly discuss. Um, believe it or not, when we're looking at a dimension on a drawing, let me just see here. I'm going to open up. I'm going to open up the PDF for the shaft guide. So I have my ISO view here, my shaft guide, but I'm just going to talk through the first note on that. It just says something about blah, 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 YS, blah, 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 tolerance, right? Dimensions and tolerances per ASME. Well, that's actually really critical because our previous drawings that we've done have just been, objects that we've drawn and then some dimensions thrown on. And in the mechanical world, these dimensions are not sufficient just as like standalone dimensions. Like it would be weird to say that. Well, first of all, it's kind of weird to think about this in this way, that these dimensions are kind of insufficient, just standalone dimension. You would think that, oh, this hole through here is just 7, it's just 3/4 of an inch. Great. What else is there to that hole? And you'd kind of be right. It's like, okay, that's just the size of that. Maybe there's a location to consider. Right now, we've learned that there's always a size and a location of features on objects. And so I may have to at least look to see if I have a couple other dimensions that are going to locate that. And then kind of locate it to X and Y, or locate it to some other feature or a datum on this thing, a good surface or a good center line. Like that's what I'm kind of looking for to locate it off of some great control node. And so that's already maybe kind of a weird new thought to you, is wondering where your dimensions, where they're pulling from and what is critical. And when you look at a dimension, which way is it pulling from? Is it pulling, from a center line to an edge, or are you reading it from the edge to the center line? Like you can go kind of, depends on which way you want to go, where you're coming from when it comes to a dimension. So that might be already a little bit confusing to you, and it should be. It's just analyzing a dimension and really what it's saying. And then we have this number, and you're like, well, just hit that number. And the reality of building stuff, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. Almost everything, we cannot hit that dimension. Because what the dimension is telling us is it has to be diameter of 0.75. Well, machinery, materials, they are hard to get like exactly right. And so generally in the mechanical world, all dimensions have a tolerance associated with them, which means I have a little bit like a fudge factor, maybe so we call. I have a little bit of wiggle room. Otherwise, if you don't give me any wiggle room, I have to like maybe buy like really precise tooling, and I have to buy um I don't know, I have to think of how these things have to hit their dimensions perfectly because you're giving me no wiggle room to work with. So in the real world, we understand that materials don't always hold their form. Materials can look like they're smooth and finished, but at the microscopic level where things actually matter in a mechanical situation, this surface is not flat, or this surface is irregular, or this surface is porous, or this surface, it didn't get quite cut to the right size in this direction, but it is okay in this other direction. So it's just this, when you're working with actual materials, any kinds of materials, you're going to need to give the fabricators some wiggle room. And what we do that is we do this. So if I'm not given like a specific tolerance, like we're going to make some dimension styles where not only is it the dimension, but it's a tolerance. It's like a spot location tolerance. Like for this diameter 0.75, I could have this other little tolerance, like a plus or minus tolerance that says, oh, you could be 2 thousandths over or 2 thousandths under. And then I'm kind of being even more explicit. Like there's the wiggle room I've given the fabricator, the person performing that, however they have to make that. I'm giving them the dimension, plus I'm giving them a tolerance around the dimension that will work for my application. And those tolerances can vary depending on their application, like what the part's designed to do and how accurate the tolerance needs to be. Where when no dimension is given, or I mean, when no tolerance is given, like we've been doing on our other drawings, we are left to like have no wiggle room. So right here, we can put a note on the very first page of our drawings, call that the general note area. It maybe would apply to the entire print pack if this thing had like 50 parts that we had dimensioned, but we hadn't done any local tolerancing, then we might use a note like this that says dimensions and tolerances per ASME Y14.5. It points us to a code, and in this code book, there would be a general tolerance applied. I should know what it is off the top of my head, but I don't know. I'd have to look it up how many thousandths it's allowing, plus or minus a few thousandths, probably. I'll look it up, but because we should know that. But we are pointing the reader in that look at our dimensions. Oh, but if you can't hit these dimensions, which we understand that in the real world, some of these dimensions are going to vary a little bit. As long as they vary within the dimensions and tolerances given in this code book, we can call it an acceptable part. And then additionally, I give it some more information. Hey, this part's going to be handled. I don't need any like remove all burrs and sharp edges because a lot of machine work or even 3D printed parts, the edges of plastic on a really good 3D printer can be kind of sharp, and they can need to be deburred so there's no danger to someone handling this part maybe, and just good overall manufacturing practices or to deburr sharp edges, not to an extreme. You don't want to put filleted edges or rounds on stuff that's not supposed to have a round edge. So this particular part, if I have and I'll throw myself to your guys' screen, but in this particular part, um, I have these like sharp edges. I would not want to detune these enough so that they're not sharp, but then now they're like a rounded filleted edge. So even controlling how much I remove the burrs and sharp edges is critical. Like I'm not looking to add like round contours to all edges. I'm probably maintaining a pretty sharp corner, just that it doesn't have like a razor sharp corner. And then this one contains a general note that's probably going to be really critical for us here because if I look around here, it says rounds and fillets have a radius of 0.125. So that means if they're not specified locally, like if they don't have a specific note right to the part, I will now determine that everything that is unmarked will have that radius of 0.125. And so in this particular part, I think it's where the transition happens between the inside of the little tab that sticks out and where it meets the cylinder round part. So that's going to have a fillet. I think that's going to be a filleted edge of this radius. So this is a good thing to start having on our drawings. A general note area. Almost every drawing I've ever done has a general note area. Mostly, sometimes it's built into the title blocks or the templates. It's just covering your bases when your dimensions look like ours do, and they just have nothing going on around them. So this just, it's actually not sufficient. There always is a tolerance applied. We just got to know what code book they're applying the tolerance, or if they have an in-house tolerance. It doesn't mean they have to go to a code book to do it. This is just our preference. Our ISU's mechanical drafting program is preferring to use ASME Y14.5 as our standard. Other companies could have built an in-house standard. Maybe it's loosely based off ASME with some stuff that they also wanted, and they've kind of built their own tolerance, and that's fine as long as it works for them. Companies have control over building a tolerance. So anyway, and then some companies don't do anything like that, and they just put dimensions on their prints. And in some applications, that's fine for whatever they're building. Okay, I got that up on my other screen. I'm ready to start with an inch template. So I'll open up my inch template and start drawing this thing. And I'll open it from my files here. Yeah, because currently our templates don't have, they don't have, and I still have some extra dimensions here, but they currently do not have notes. So we'll probably go back and add those notes to our template. I already have mine as a drawing. That's fine. I can probably do it here, and then I might copy and paste it over to my template if I open my .dwt file. So, because I think I'll add that just at the end of this drawing. So this one I'll save as where we're going to go with this week 6 shaft guide. Now, and we'll start this as a 2-to-1 potentially. So I'm just looking at the overall size here. I still will build just kind of a little envelope for it. I have that it's 1 inch high by 1 3/4 plus whatever this radius would be, which is 3/4. Yeah, the outer one is got a diameter of 1.5. Half of 1.5 is 3/4 of an inch, 0.75. This is 0.75 plus 1.75. 1.75 plus 0.75. I like that it's 2.5 by 1. And then in the top view, it's just going to be the overall diameter for the depth of the part. It's going to be 1.5 inches. So that's all I need. And I'll intentionally crash them here. So I'm gonna do my normal envelope here. I say 2.5, 2.5 by 1. That's where it's gonna fit. Yep. Then another. Just do your best to get those lined up. So I'm just gonna kind of put them close, and 2.5. And then this is by 1.5 in the top view for the depth there. So it's going to be double the size. I'm just going to go look at it on my, I think, B-size sheet I said. So I'm going to click over my B-size layout and unlock it and maybe find my window here and set it at double 2-to-1. This would probably actually kind of work. I'm going to keep it this close because what I think I told you I'm going to intentionally crash this. So what I've done is, and this is just to see, like, this is just, for me, I could go and probably space these out a little bit and get this to where working within my B-size sheet at double space, I see that I can probably just create a little more room to dimension. That's probably how I would proceed normally, but I'm going to proceed like as if I just didn't pay attention and I built my views too close together, and then how I would manage something like that. So this is kind of a lesson in that. Obviously, if you don't do that, you'd still be able to fit it, but I'm going to kind of do this intentionally where I've got an issue and can't dimension between my views. So I'm still going to go ahead and do my orthographic work right now. I'm going to leave it like that. And so stop sharing here. But I'm just going to start piecing together what would be in my orthographic view here. So to me, I will start with my front view. I'm just going to trace the left side. It's just going to be straight up and down, straight across the top, and at least 1.5 inches. Then it's going to come down, and then this is how thick is this? Do I have it? Oh yeah, 20.25, quarter-inch thick on this tab here, quarter-inch thick, and that's going to come over the full 2.5 inches, up a quarter, back to where it hits. Okay, so I think the way I'm going to proceed this is I'll just build the round rectangle. This will look like a rectangle in my front view. I'll just do that, and then I'll have wherever that jams into it, I'll trim it. So let's do that. So let's see, visible. So I think I'm gonna jump into my model here. Trace that. 1.5 inches. So really that thing is 1.5 inches in diameter, like that. That's the cylinder shaped part in the front view. It just looks like a rectangle. And then this part continues pretty much from right here, because it comes up to this point of tangency on that cylinder part. And then I'm just going to pick it up from here though, where I'm missing it. And it's a quarter-inch tall, 0.25. And then it would go back to this part here. And that might all I be that might all I can that's all I can really tell from this view, other than I'm probably going to trim this out where it does go back to. And this line is probably going to come, like, now that I think about it, and I'll take a look. Like, I am going to see this line well beyond just where it hits the outer diameter. It's going to go clear across, I think, right to actually the quadrant of that diameter. So kind of to that midpoint there. And I probably won't have a line down there, but if you did, it would probably be something I'd trim out later. So what I'm saying is this particular line is likely more like this, coming from here, clear across to probably the midpoint of this line. I have a segmented line here with a midpoint. That's the quadrant, or the top midpoint. That's what that's actually going to look like. And then probably not going to have that little turn down. Go ahead, Lydia. This one right here, that that I just drew. It's going to be, this is the diameter of the outer. Yeah, I don't have the inner bore in here yet. This is the diameter, 1.5 inches. Yeah. So that's how I knew that. I was 1.5 inches by 1 inch. Yep. And then this is probably how I'm going to keep that ear. There's some more details going on here, but I think I'll do the front view, top view, and just kind of project down. So I'll jump in, or I'll share my screen again here. So here it comes. So I'm just going to build out my top view now. Some projections. Just double check myself here that they're lined up before I spend time. That looks good. I'll put that one across. And do I want to put this one? Yeah, I might put this one across. I might leave it for a minute. I think what I definitely want is it should just be round here. My round part should fit right in here. This is essentially like 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches square that I built. So this is the center of this is going to be where I can do my outer and inner bore. So I think you could come in here with a line if you need it. I don't know. I don't have a geometric center there because it's just a big rectangle. So I could come in here at the midpoint and come out here. 0.75 would be where the center of that is. It's 1.5 inches across, 3/4 of an inch is center. So this is the location for my circular. Which I think I'm going to do that like that. And I can just pull it out to the edge here. That should be the 1.5 inches. You can see that it measures 3/4 in my window. So that looks like. And then the inner bore is what? Oh, just 3/4 in diameter. Okay. So I'll do another circle by diameter. It's 3/4 in diameter, 1/2 3/4, 3/8, 0.375. So I can type that in. Enter. Yeah, so the way I drew mine is because I have a midpoint on this side, and so I snapped onto my midpoint and I drew it 3/4 of an inch straight across, and that's because that's the radius of the. So it's yep. This is this ends up being an inch and a half in diameter, so half of the inch and a half is 3/4. And if you don't have that, like I do encourage you, like keep your calculator handy. I always pull and I know if you added yours to your lower toolbar, it wouldn't be there. So you can always go in and use the Windows search on the bottom. You always do have the window pane search on the bottom, and you could search for your calculator or just have your phone calculator out or something. But it is helpful to say, like, well, I don't know. I know that this is, I have dimensions in their halves, and you will too later in life. You'll have a pretty good sense of dividing stuff in your head. Of course, I can make mistakes when I do that, but I can make mistakes on the calculator too. But it's an inch and a half in diameter, so you just say what's the radius of that? Inch and a half divided by 2 is 3/4. So yeah, use your calculator and it's good. So that's that. And then this one would really continue from this point here. I don't really need to project it up as much because it's really the quadrant of where this ear comes out this way. And then I can't remember, I didn't look at this dimension, how wide this is. Let's take a look here. It's explicitly, oh, it's 0.60. So 0.60 wide and then back to the OD. So this is zero point 0.6, kind of an odd dimension, zero point 0.6. And then back to where it would hit tangent. So I've got my snap tracking on, so I'm nice and straight. I just need to click it where that intersection point is. Remember that intersection is an O snap that I always have on. So looking for that point there. And then this probably won't let me fillet this. Like it says on our thing, this is where that 1/8 inch fillet comes into play here. There's like a smoother transition between where these kind of two surfaces meet. And we're just gonna have that like filleted, take care of that like stress point of the tab here. If you don't, that's a pretty good place to like concentrate stresses in this part potentially. So this fillet does a lot of work in relieving that stress. Could lead to part failure. So whether it's plastic or metal. So, but I bet you I can't just choose fillets and then say, oh, I need a radius of point. I mean, this could 0.125 and then choose that. It wants to select that, but it will select that. Oh, good, good, good. I wasn't sure if it would or not. So that was my attempt. It'll fill it that. Where I thought it might cut weird on the, no, that was great. Love it. So I just used fillet command, made my fillet go in there. I think the outer fillets are the same, right? Now what I'm thinking is these are not explicitly called out, the radius round corners. So I will do the same fillet there. They will then, if they're not locally called out with a leader line here of sorts, then I'm going to apply the general note rule of the rounds and fillets are 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to use the same fillet command. If technically I've preloaded the fillet command, it'll have whatever I use last. So I don't have to worry about setting the radius again, especially if it's the same. I can just go right into saying multiple of these. So you've heard me gripe before. My biggest complaint about fillet command is that it's a one and done, and you have to select multiple to let it keep continuing. I feel like default should be multiple, and I should select. And why would I not just be like, if I only need one, just exit the command? But there's probably a reason that I don't know. And somebody from Autodesk would tell me, well, you're an idiot because it's actually for this reason. And I'd say, oh, okay. There probably is a reason. So now I just need a hole here. So I'll try to find, I do have a midpoint of a line here. So, you see me find midpoints quite a bit. Like I don't know what this distance is, but I think I'm going to use that and see if I can figure out what that, it's 0.4. So it's also kind of a bit of an odd dimension, zero point 0.4 from the surface edge to the hole center. Or is it 0.4 from the hole center to the surface edge? That's what I'm telling you. Like you wouldn't think of dimensions mattering that way, but it does matter. Your Cheshire cat tells you, you know, which way did you come from? If it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, but it actually does matter. So a dimension pulled like this 0.4 could be interpreted either way. which one is the critical hold point and which one is it referencing over to. So just think of that. Okay. But what I've got is a 0.4 line that would be where the center of that exists, and I'll put that in. And the diameter of both sides is a 1/4 inch diameter hole. So half a quarter, an eighth, drawn by radius. And I'm drawing by radius here, so I'll say it's an eighth of an inch. 0.125 is half a quarter. It's probably getting pretty close to all the visible line work for this. Oh, yeah, well, close. I think there's a hole here, right? Oh, yeah, so I could have drawn that in, but it's all right. I'll come back and do this now. Looks like it's on center. Well, it's like on center. We're going to assume it is. So on the quadrant anyway, looks like where all those line up, and then it's a 1/2 inch up. So I think it is designed. It does say through, so it's through there. You can see it barely showing up on the other side wall of the cylinder. So I'm going to put that in, and in the top view, I'll just show it hidden going all the way through. So a 1/2 inch up. I'll put that in. We use the same kind of placement where I use like a midpoint. I still have a midpoint here because remember this line I've drawn that long. So this is 0.5. If you didn't have that, you could cursor over at 3/4 of an inch, cursor over 3/4 and up by a 1/2 inch. And this one is the same. It's a 1/4 inch. Yeah. Both of these holes are 1/4 inch. Okay. I like that. Now let's just project that stuff. I'll just project this all the way across. It to be nice and straight all the way through like that. Then I'll project the other one down. And the inner bore too. I should take and communicate back from this one. This is the inner bore. 3/4 of an inch in diameter from here down. So that'll look like hidden line work in the front view, and then this hole will also. And then we'll just trace over those with hidden line. Hidden there. The inner bore will just be hidden from top to the bottom. And the upper hole will be through, so it's kind of be a segmented line. I'm just going to zoom in here where that intersection happens. There it is. So only draw it through the material like that. Same here. Zoom away in here. That's where it comes through. There. One right there that just intersects right. I mean, to me, I never really have to like think too much about my hidden line work. I generally always have a projection line that I'm tracing if I've used projection line work. And I see, as I've started to grade some of the projection line work, I see, yeah, it's hit and miss on people using their construction lines. Strongly encourage it for alignment. It's also kind of a teaching tool. So I'm actually kind of doing it to brainwash you a little bit, which is just to say, so that when you get to a 3D program and it's automatically doing it, you understand what it's doing. And I don't think it's like hard to really, sometimes it can, you take for granted how fast a 3D program can do that, but it is good to like build the concept that it's doing because it's just doing this. I mean, obviously your part is 3D, but it's going to let you orthographically align different views of that object with the click of a button. So, but we want to appreciate it. So this is like drawing appreciation. It'll help you with the 3D program because if you do some auxiliary views and some sectioning views that are kind of labor intensive in CAD, they become way easy in a 3D program. But like you've kind of, I don't know, spending some time manually doing it in CAD kind of builds I think you're understanding a little better with the 3D program to where you're like, oh, now I can do this and this. And that would have taken me forever in CAD, but now I can just do this with a cutting plane really fast. And but I think just doing it manually builds the skill set just a little bit better. So I like it. And then I'm just going to put some center lines on this thing. So I think I'll turn off my construction work for just a minute and at least finish off with my center lines. I think I like a nice big center mark on this one. And then a couple little ones. I think I'll let my center marks function as the center line. I would like to have a center line through, this is this is a rectangular part appearing, sorry, a round part appearing rectangular here. So I would like to additionally add just like a center line down. And so I think I'm just going to use my center mark and extend them to also function as the center mark through the bore here. This one I'll just use a center line. And this center mark it'll do kind of dual functioning, right? It's kind of shows you that the through hole is on center and the generally because I don't have more than one center mark here, it kind of it's inferring that both circular parts here are it's concentric. So I just need to set their extensions, right? I still catch that every once in a while. These are 0.25 extensions. And some of them I'm going to pull a little bit out of that, but at least I'll set my minimum. And then I can just match those properties to my other center marks. So at least I established the minimum. Maybe I'll do the one center line that I really need is this one. And I'll just add its extensions. Got a line type scale to worry about too. I can tell it's looking a little bit coarse there on the center marks, but I think I would leave this. I think I'll just leave that. This one I'm going to pull through is the one I think I said. I would extend this upper one just to go through the part. And this one too, I'm going to extend it down to the part edge with my grip. And then it just is doing the 1/4 inch extending. Of course, I'm hitting these. And so this is what I've intentionally done, right? I crash them to where I really have no room to dimension. I could try to start to crowd them in there. I know that they're fitting good here, but I did this on purpose. So now I'm going to have to use 2 viewports to show these objects. And so what I'm going to do is plan on that. And I'm going to make this viewport out here. And the other reason why I'm doing this is just so I can show you, we can still orthographically align stuff when I have to move it away. But I'm not going to set my viewport yet, because what I'm going to do is I've used orthographic projection to do this. Let me go back out here. So I have all this underlying construction work, right? I'm just going to make a copy of these like front and top views and pull them away a little bit further. But I'm just going to leave the main, I'm going to leave all this right here. And I'm just going to make a copy. So but I'm not going to take the construction material. So I'm just going to like turn that off for a minute, because if I have it on, it's easy. It's going to want to grab it. And I'm just going to make a copy. So I'm going to say copy the top view. I'm going to select everything in the top view like this. I use the crossing window that wouldn't, these almost cross each other. And if you use the other way, right, whatever it like will touch, it will also grab. It wouldn't be the end of the world, because I can just hold down shift and unselect that from the group. But I'm doing the copy command for this one, because even if I didn't get that whole part, it won't. So I'm going to make a copy of this. I'm going to say just select copy. I'm going to pull it into orthographic. I'm just going to use the tracking to keep it in orthographic alignment. It's really not even critical that I do, because I'm totally making a copy of this for a viewport to dimension. So, I mean, if I pulled this off like this, it technically wouldn't matter. I probably just out of my habit, I'm just going to pull this up and away so that the viewport's easy to zoom in on. And there's a copy of my top view. I'm going to do the same thing with my bottom view and just pull it away. So I'm going to make a copy of those objects only. And I'll just move. I'm just picking a base point. So once I've selected them, I just right click and press enter, select the base points. I'll probably do the same. Just out of habit, I'll probably keep it in orthographic projection, just down and away like this. And then I'm not deleting anything that I had, right? I still almost have like a reference base instruction here that I can go back and check. I mean, the reason why I keep construction materials is if I ever have an issue once I get to the dimensioning stage where something has gone wrong, I can go back in, click on my construction work, decide where the error was made. It kind of helps me track that down rather than just redrawing something. It gives me kind of a path to correct it. But this here is now I'm going to go to my page. So I've got these views. I'm ready to kind of dimension those two. And so I'm going to go back to my page, and it's not going to be here that I want to zoom in. I'm looking to make a double, a 2 to 1, or a double size view here. So I'm going to unlock it and zoom around, and maybe I'll just choose this viewport to be the front view viewport. I'm going to put it at 2 to 1. I might lock that down for just a minute, and then I'm going to go out here and resize my viewport. So maybe I don't need this to be, I haven't done my dimensioning yet, so I'll leave it a little bit big, but it doesn't need to be that big. I'm just looking there. And then maybe I'll drag it down. It's going to be a front view somewhere in the middle-ish. I have a note coming in the bottom left corner, so maybe I'll favor moving to the right just a little bit. I'm going to put a note in here. Not that it's going to take up a lot of room, but so there's maybe a potential position of the front view. So I'll leave that there, and I got to add a viewport. So this is good to remember how to do this too. So when you're in the paper space, you have that layout tab shows up, and I like that they highlight it blue to remind you that, hey, this is unique to paper space. I'm on paper. The layout tab is where we have our layout viewports, so we can pick like a lot of different ways to set a viewport based around an object or some weird polygon or just a rectangular one. It doesn't matter which one we'd use here, but I think I'm going to place just a rectangular one. I'm just going to say, oh, it's going to be my top view, so I'm going to just put it over here somewhere. I think it's snapped to, and it put it on my center line. That's because that's the layer I was on, right? So I've got to make sure I push that to the viewport. I just noticed that it was red, not yellow. Oh, and then I just did visible objects instead of viewports. Ah, that's good. And then I need to get it off my border a little bit there, something like this. It's going to be about this big. It can overlap. It's not the end of the world, but I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to zoom in on the top view. Here it is. I'm going to set it at the same scale. They got to match. So that double scale is what I need. Looks like it's a little tight, my viewport is. So I'm going to jump out here and resize it just a little bit. Looks like I've got to have a little more room here, top and bottom at a double size. Maybe I don't need as much room that way or this way. I'm going to escape that. Maybe I'll pull this one away. I don't know until I get some dimensions in there. I don't know exactly how they're going to totally align here, but I could drag this one away just a little bit more. So now I've got two viewports that are, I hope, locked down. When we lock it at 2 to 1, so they're both the same scale. I'm checking that. They're both 2 to 1 lockdown. And now they're not orthographically aligned. So this is just a quick hack way to align two views. Is I'm just going to do a sketch on here. So I'm gonna use my construction layer. This is sometimes where I build a second construction layer. So maybe I will do that. So I've mentioned it before, and I've seen some people doing it, but like if your construction layers get really saturated with lines and they get confusing, and maybe you've done all of the visible line work, but you got to do all these features and holes on a part, and all the construction lines of projection for the just getting the main object drawn gets a little busy. Well, then I just come in here, I select this, and I'm going to make a new one. So whichever one you select, it'll make a copy of it. So I've selected my construction layer, right? And select it like that, make a copy here. And I just call it construction 2 or something. Construction 2. I mean, in reality, when I'm really drawing stuff, I may have a dozen construction layers that I've turned on and off at times because they're just non-printing layers. They're just free work for me, whatever I need to do to use to lay out. And I can keep it the same color. I could change the color. I'll just keep it the same color on this one. So we've got a construction 1 and a construction 2. So I might just jump over to construction 2, only because it's kind of a different phase of it's going to be like a drawing. So I'm on construction layer 2 now, and it's going to be a drawing out here. So I'm on paper space. I'm out on the paper. I'm not in a viewport. So I'm out here on paper space. I'm just going to snap a line that I want to like align these two. So maybe I'm going to say, I like where my front view is, and I just kind of want to snap a line to lock that into place. So all I'm going to do is draw this line. I'm kind of referencing this so I get that tracking a little bit, but you wouldn't have to. I could draw anywhere like with nothing, but I'm just going to draw this perfectly straight up and down. I could use ortho mode or whatever. I'm using a snap here. So then I just get this line, it's a construction line. And now what you have is you can move these viewports with and the grips associated within the viewport, even without being in the viewport like this. I can be out here on the paper and say I want to move this one, move this, select the viewport. Excellent. I'm gonna right click and press enter. And then it says where you want to move, always select the base point. Well, you have the base points that are associated with the drawing here too, even though you're outside of the viewport technically. So really, if I didn't have this aligned where I wanted, I could bring it in and like snap it to that line so I've got like a perpendicular grip that's showing up, and that would allow me to like line up that part of that viewport with this line. And then let's do another one. Let's move this viewport by, I think right here, this quadrant is what I'd also like to line up with that line. So I might just take that, slide it across. There's my quadrant lining up. So this is just me kind of building, essentially a projection line. Of course, for this to work, they have to be the same scale, but this is how I would definitely like align something that I've drawn too close together, which is probably maybe already almost happened to us on some of our other drawings where we just got close, or maybe we had them too far apart. They almost fell off the border area. What I'm telling you, it's not the end of the world. Actually, it really doesn't matter because I can always do something like this and save having to do rework because I didn't plan out the spacing for the dimensions right. Instead it's way better to do this than keep just crowding dimensions. You can create all the space in the world you need. So now I'm ready to dimension. So I'll just make sure I'm on my dimensions layer here, but I really think that my template set up to always just draw dimensions on the dimension layer. So we'll just jump in here and start with thinking of how we would what we need. I think there's a cheater kind of sheet on the canvas to see, but I'm going to zoom into the viewport. And really, even though I'm zooming into the one viewport, I can dimension both of these as long as I'm in a viewport dimensioning both views. I think I don't have to be in the top viewport to dimension this. I think just the one will get us our annotated dimensions. So I'm in here. I've got my annotated stuff on and updates up. So let's just start with what we know as the overall we always need, right? I always need overall widths and lengths, and generally between views is where I like that. So I think I'll have an overall width, which could potentially just be could potentially just be a reference dimension. I don't know how critical that overall is, and maybe there's other parts that are more critical, but that's the overall. And the overall height, I think I've told you that I like to go over here and envision that I might have a right side view that this was talking to. However, in this one where I don't, instead of getting the crisscross pattern here, it might be a great place to drop the height in on the left side. But I don't know. It's not I don't know yet. I think I'll still try to go with my rule here and say it's this one is the overall height, even though I've got a little crisscross, so that doesn't really matter actually. And then I'm gonna probably want that, but I'll come back to that one because that's when I start thinking about the size of a specific feature. I'm really just trying to focus on overalls right now, and that's going to be all I can get overall for the front view. But I will want to get the overall here, the depth here, and so I can kind of think about this, and maybe technically the overall depth is not going to be up here. You might want to come up here and snap a line or snap a leader line. I mean, it might be like a good practice might be, well, I can recognize that this is a diameter. And so maybe I'm going to put the diameter as kind of the overall size, because that would be the overall size this way, the depth. I think I'm going to put that in the rectangular view though. When I have the option, right, on a round part, that has visible lines in the rectangular view, let's do it there. So that's what I have going on. So technically this one's kind of almost going to function as the depth up top if I do a linear dimension as of this round in this rectangular view. So I feel like this is maybe a better the one that I just dropped was good. Maybe this one's better. And I put that diameter symbol in front of it. And then I would remember to get rid of this one probably. And then I don't want this one. This was a good dimension. The one down below is better. So really it leaves me nothing yet here when it comes to overalls. I've almost handled them all in this front view. In order for this to work like I want it to work, I do need to have that top view to reference though, because it would help me understand that that is the depth as well. And it doesn't go beyond that. Like I wouldn't be able to tell unless I had hidden line work that maybe there was an ear out that backside and that would affect the overall dimension in the depth way, but it's not here. I didn't really talk through like choosing this, how I even chose this, but this was naturally positioned and it's that this was my front view surface. So I didn't really talk through my selection of that, but I just went to it. This is my front view surface, top view surface, and my right side view surface would have been here if I needed it. But it's just that the top view gives me all the detailing that I need to here that I would maybe kind of pick up in the front view or right side view. So that's why I've eliminated it, is that I really get the gist of it from the two views. But so I feel like I've taken care of overalls. Now I'll just go back and like analyze the part for its features. So I tend to start with the main the main like when I think of features, I think of, this could all be one uniform part made out of one block and just machined this way or 3D printed this way. But I still break it down to myself when I go to sizing stuff that they're kind of like two different parts of the object. Like there's the cylindrical featured part of it, and then there's the ear or the tab out here. So when I start to dimensioning them, I do kind of break the way that they are joined and they're all one unit. And I kind of think, well, let me just size and locate them as kind of these individual kind of like parts, just like I would look at the holes and the through bores, these individual features of the object. I kind of look at how the parts are constructed as individual kind of features. That helps me know what to size and what to locate. So if I look at just the main part of it, which is the cylinder itself, I've definitely got its size. I've got the 1.5 inch diameter. That's kind of the outer size. One size is all I need, but maybe I need to locate it in kind of XY space or to something. And really this part, I feel like the best datum on this part, where it's gonna like the control point of where dimensions are really coming from, is gonna be the center line of that bore. Like I could just see this as far as, it's mostly radius features. I have one good flat surface here, and of course I have a nice flat bottom, and I really have a flat top. I have a nice flat bottom that's probably going to become a datum just because my front view sitting on that datum, and I've really already pulled a 1 inch dimension from that. So, in my mind, when I think about where this dimension came from, well, that's actually a bottom up dimension to me. The bottom being the control hold point, the top being locked in at 1 with some tolerance applied. But to me, this matters which direction this dimension is going. It's from bottom up. So I've already kind of established a datum as the bottom, which is really normal in a front view. Really normal to put your front view on a nice stable base and use that base as a datum or a control hold point. So the other thing I have is that that's one datum, and then as I look around the features that I have, yeah, I could have a top surface datum. Um, I really can't tell what datum the 2.5 is coming from. Like I told you, maybe it's more of a reference dimension because it's just, I mean, you could say that it's coming off the right side surface as it is a nice small little surface that could be used as a datum for sure. It's got a good surface, contact to it. But I think I'm going to use the bore, the center line of the bore as another kind of control hold point for this part. And it's going to, what I think that's what I'm going to use to locate uh, kind of the cylinder in relation to like the diameter of the cylinder in relation to its kind of center line. So I'm going to put in another dimension from center line over to an outer diameter. And maybe it doesn't matter in this one which way I go, but I just need maybe one dimension that's from an edge to the center as kind of a locating dimension, because it's like 3/4 of an inch to the edge. The diameter, that's 1 1/4. So I've kind of located it in at least kind of on the x-axis here as I'm looking down. And of course I might fix my extension lines. So this is me considering the location of this part in kind of space. And now I'm locating it to a center line as a datum, and I'm kind of thinking that this is the critical hold control, and then out to that edge is 3/4, a lot with some tolerance applied to it maybe. But the control point's really the datum center line. So, and then the 1.5 inch is probably coming from once I've controlled the 3/4 position, I can go say that the diameter is now 1.5 inches. It's kind of like they're working together. There's location, there's size. The location also needs in the other direction, probably. Like I probably need to have a location here. and it's going to be the same dimension. I'm going to turn off my, sorry, I'm going to come up to this toggle. So I feel like another location for that would be center out maybe. So I think I'm going to choose from center out in this direction. I know I understand it's the same dimension, but it is controlling kind of from a different, sorry, I messed up in my placement. It's controlling from a different direction to locate that whole center. What you'll find is this probably works like these dimensions that oh, I don't know why I'm pulling this weird, but I'll lock this in better. Lock in, snap it, drop it. Okay, good. Oh, it's like when I go to exit, it does something weird. I don't know. It's an operator error, I guarantee you. Let me pull the context back. So this one, you'll find that even what I'm doing here is probably going to help locate more than just the cylinder itself. Maybe I don't know. And I'm going to pull this back to here and just make sure that extension line. Yep, they're overlapping good here. So I kind of have in a Y direction now. I kind of have a control where I think of the center line potentially this way through as a control hold out to this edge. Or I could be now starting to infer that there is another datum control point, the front surface right here is now becoming a datum of sorts. And that would be fine, right? Like a lot of like part control comes down to like 3 datums to lock it down in space. Not all, only if it's needed. But in my mind, I'm kind of starting to have 3 datums. I'm having the bottom surface is one. I'm having kind of the center of this bore here as a control point, and now I'm kind of having a front surface kind of control. So anyway, think about where your dimensions are going from and to. Okay, so I feel like I've kind of moved on now from the size and location of just the cylinder shape part of this in kind of space. And now I've got the tab ear here to I feel like is the next kind of feature. And I need to know its size and location. So I'm going to do sizing. It's probably going to be down here. Part of the size is how thick it is. It's different than everything else. It's not 1 inch. So I think this is a great place for a size dimension. I don't have this in the top view anyway to use, so I've got to use this one. It might be my most intermediate dimension there, so I maybe could have spaced that away 0.375, but I didn't. I just snapped it there. So that's one size. What's the other size? It's going to be the width that I see of it in the top view. There's the other size. So I'm gonna put this size. And what you find is I'm kind of probably using I'm pulling it from here to here. So I'm thinking that front surface as my datum. Same with maybe my 3/4 that I already pulled. But there's the other size. So I feel like I've kind of sized my ear length, but maybe I need to know it in this direction as well. How long it is and from this center line. Yeah, I think so. From the center over out to the edge, I'm going to control the length of that as kind of a size dimension. So it's a good practice to wonder in your mind what is size and what is location. This I definitely consider size, but I think sometimes you have some overlap and some dimensions are like, well, it does size, but it also does location, and that's fairly normal. Let me resize my extension lines though, so they don't block the line types. So that's kind of size width, size length. Maybe there's another size here, but this might naturally fall together if I have this size in accounted for. So that's size and location. I really think I've kind of located it. Because this is kind of like I said, this is kind of acting like a location too. Off center line out to this edge is kind of doing size and location at once. And then from this edge up to there is definitely doing kind of a location. So I'm kind of controlling like these the corner where this starts and then it's 0.6 in the other size. So I mean this is definitely only a size dimension, not a location. 0.6 is just size, just size. If I reference it to one of my datums, well, I should have. I am kind of because it's the front surface. So I retract that saying that it is kind of a size and location dimension. Anyway, it gets a little confusing, but just keep asking yourself size or location or both and see if they're doubling up, and that's okay if they are. It's okay if they're doing both, I should say. It's not okay if I got double dimensions, but I think I'm ready to move to the other two main. I've got three more features to think about. The inner bore, and so let me move to. I've got the inner bore to worry about, this hole to worry about, and the through hole there to worry about. So I've got three more features I feel like to size and locate. So let's do the inner bore. Well, I don't have a great place to pull the dimension. I have to dimension to hidden lines for the kind of the diameter rectangular view. So I think I'm going to come up here and use my only option that I have left is to do a diameter here as a size dimension. Yeah. And then its location. Well, its location, I'm kind of using 3/4 as its location. It's maybe 3/4 from the front surface to the center line. So that's kind of functioning as also you know, because they're concentric, this location dimension here is doing both cylindrical kind of features of this object. That 3/4 doing some sizing. The other is doing some locating work. The other one that's doing some sizing work is this overall 1 inch. That's also kind of the size of the or this height of that bore hole. So no, you're seeing that obviously the where the cylinder is it's almost the same feature, even though the inner hole, all we really had to add is the diameter of it. The other size locating dimensions are doing work for both kind of cylindrical, the outer and the inner. Because it's also gonna this 3/4 in this direction is gonna help me locate that bore as well. So really, what I'm saying is, when I was focusing on the outer kind of main feature, now I'm focusing on the inner. I find that the locating dimensions are doing both of this for both features, which is kind of obvious because it's just a hole through a part. But it is good to put your head through that space of like, is it located? Yeah, it's located with the same kind of locating that I've done with the other outer when I was considering the outer larger circle. So I feel like I'm located. All I needed to do, I really add was the size. So now I'm going to move on to one of the holes. I'll do this hole here. So I feel like its size is going to be here. It falls into the same banner of this. If I try to size it down below, it's hidden. So I'm not going to. I'm going to size it here and use a diameter dimension to do that. Just maybe pull this out up and across here. I'm crossing some stuff, but I can break through that, or I can drop it in between. But I might just pull it through. I don't know. It's either this gets a little close to my object, so I think I'll pull it up in a way. I could say two each, but I think I'm not going to because they kind of have different things going on. This one, I mean, this one inferred that it goes all the way through just based off my views, and so sometimes you don't call these out. Although I could argue that it's not clear enough. I should tell it that it's through, but it is kind of clear with visual the lines, but that's definitely its size. Let's look at its location. I'm going to do the locating right here. Probably off the front edge. So I'm going to think about what I'm using as datums, so I like the front surface. I've already pulled some datums that way. Whether they've pulled from center out is kind of debatable, but I think I'm going to kind of lock in the front surface as a real datum when I pull this dimension here, because it's not coming off the center line of the other part. It's like I'm now I'm kind of almost like locking these down as being pulled from a front surface as well, potentially. But this is a location. Let's fix its extension lines here a little bit. They need to go to their right to the object edge. That. And then I'm going to locate, oh, from right side over. No, I don't think I'm going to do that because I haven't pulled any dimensions hard from this like right side surface to that. Now that would be maybe a good dimension. It's just that I'm establishing another datum and I maybe already have two or three already. So I think, we could pull it here as well. Like it wouldn't be wrong. It would be good to pull it from here to here. But I think I'm going to go from center over to that hole. So I might go from center of bore, which I am using as a pretty good control point, the center line of this part, this being kind of the main part feature anyway. Like if I were to prioritize my datums, I might say that this is my datum A, and then maybe these other ones are datum B and C, because you also pick the priority of like datums in the future here, like which one is the first, the second, and third. Anyway, long story short, I think I'm going to use the locating dimension as maybe a better from here or from the center to the center here is what I want to pull. And it's because that big circular feature is kind of the is maybe the more powerful feature. I mean, it probably is what goes over the shaft, and this other part is some, I don't know. It's a shaft guide, so I don't exactly know, but I like this as a location of that hole better than coming from the right side. Because like I said, I haven't pulled anything from there. Well, I pulled this, but I think I've told you this is more of a reference dimension, like an overall reference. Like it might even just go in parentheses and be like, it's really not critical. What's critical is probably the hole to hole, maybe, and that bolting pattern that might be going on. So in some ways, this could become a parenthesis, which is what we do with reference dimensions. We put them on there for a nice visual, but it does, maybe it's not a hard control. So anyway, this is better. I like this better. I'm kind of controlling out to that edge from here, and now I'm controlling from there out to there. So I like this as a location. Now I just need the other hole. The other hole needs to be located and sized. So it's kind of located in that it's on the center line and in the top view, let's go down here. It definitely needs a locating dimension here in its height here, how high it is. So let's at least, and it needs size. So I think this is where to size it as well. So let's do that first. Size and location. It's the first in the sequence. I think I'm going to just drop this in here and maybe pull it into this area that I have some space. There, I'm going to add the word through. That one definitely seems critical. There's multiple surfaces that it needs to go through. And so if I put in through, and I'm just going to put on the next line down, THRU, like this, through. Then I am telling the person that it goes all the way through. And that makes sense because when I visually look at the top view, it definitely goes all the way through. There's size, location. Well, we're kind of locating here, kind of. It's on center. I think I'm just going to add for a locating dimension for sure this one. And I think I'll pull it over to the right where my other ones are kind of bundled. So I'm gonna say this to here is this other dimension. And I just need to fix the. So I don't know. This is the second time I've dimensioned this. Probably it's probably different than what shows up on. I'm gonna extend these out. Like I'll be interested to go click over because I'm getting close to thinking that I haven't cleaned it up yet, but I've got them. I've got the dimensions kind of where they go. I haven't had major. I don't feel like I need to move anything too major other than just tighten it up. Um, so that's the location that way. The location is on center here. The location is on center here. I think this is about it. Yeah. I'm just going to clean it up now. So I'll just start doing my spacings. And then I got to worry about it on the drawing. So these are 0.375 away. Yep. And space these out. Auto, and then a little bit of an adjustment maybe. Clarity, staggering. It's not great. I don't love that. I don't love the way that I like it to stay like this better. So I think I'm just gonna manipulate that out just a little bit further than a quarter inch because I didn't like the arrows going out. It's just a personal thing there, but I like the arrows in. Arrows out on that's fine. Arrows in. Yeah, I like this. Let's move up to this one and move it away. And I think I'll space these ones. I like how they fell together. This one I even think I'll just leave like that. It's okay. It doesn't have to be totally in line with that. Just double check my extension lines. It looks like I could do, yeah, I've got some close contact here. I could drop this just a little bit, break that up. I've got that going on here too. We get like almost perfect alignment. I could probably pull it through just a little bit. I might break these while I'm in here. Doesn't really matter which ones I break. I think I'll break this one where it's around this one. If I look it right. I'm gonna break this one. Yeah. I'm gonna break this one. Again, I'm gonna break it here like that. I think I'm gonna leave mine like that. Let's clean these up. Space that. Let's see. What's this? That is just a little bit tight. I think I'll give it just a little more room, like I did on the other one. Pull this above. This one I could tighten up just a little bit, maybe just pull it down. I'm going to break that as well. I think I'll break this extension around that. I think that's the better way. This I almost consider as the leader. I almost consider as a dimension line, like I would these, and I would generally not break those. Break the extension line instead. That one's fine. Maybe I could bundle it just a little closer, but no, it's fine. And then the fillets, I know I don't have a point to the fillets, but I'm gonna add that to the note because we've got to add a note to this anyway. So I kind of like this, how this is going. Let me jump back out to my views. And you can see now that I've just got to do some adjustment, try to fit them in here. So I think I'll just initially adjust my viewport size. Grab the grips here, maybe. Get my dimensions to show up. It looks like I could pull this one up a little bit. I only need that much on the bottom. I need more on the top. So how much more do I need? About that, even just a little bit more, maybe not that much, somewhere like this. Then I'm going to move it down. So I might actually move this as a move command because it's locked at 2 to 1, and then I'm going to move it. Make sure I'm out of the viewport here to move this because I'm moving the whole viewport. So I'm outside on the paper, clicking that, move it. I'm going to move it by a grip that's in there though, and move it just down. Give myself some room like that. Yeah, that looks good. I'm still in my orthographic alignment. And then I just need to resize this viewport, I think. Yeah, I don't need that much height. This one I need to see a little bit more. Oh yeah, I've got a whole dimension there that's kind of missing. Maybe I'll move it up a little bit. Move this viewport up by this point, maybe. So want to have my center line fall into the off the borderline area. So I'm getting close there. Hey, this looks pretty good. I'm like as close to the border. I've got some space now. I'm showing both my, yeah. I think I need to pull this down just a little bit. Yeah, I was cutting off. Just make sure when you have these multiple viewports, just make sure you're not going to cut off anything. It's easy to not size one of the edges right and cut off your work that you've done. So this looks good to me. Um, I can get a good look for it if I just do a control P here, just do a preview on my PDF. So I keep on the right layers. I get my object lines my monitor was just a little bit bigger and I hit that, I'd be able to see my object lines pop, but my monitor is just a little bit too small. Line type, I think what jumps out to me is the line type scale needs to be adjusted a little bit. So I think I'm going to adjust that a little finer on the cross on the center lines. So now that I've kind of taken a good look at it, I'm going to cancel that and jump in here. And I think I'm going to make these a little finer, maybe half this. That looks better. Could argue that I could go a little finer, but I think that's good. This one for sure needs to go finer. And I could have matched property or something, but that looks better. Now when I do this, and then I'm just ready for my note. Yeah, I like this better. I only changed the crosshairs. Yeah, I liked my hidden line. It seems like the hidden line 2 that we use is only bad on the metric template. But on the inch template, it works pretty good. So I just did the crosshairs. Yeah. Yeah, kind of like quarter inch diameter through. Like, yeah, I do view that as I always put that at the end rather than like a through there. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. But it can go in line if you have room to keep it on the same line. I don't think there's a right or wrong line or on the second multi-line down. So I will usually just how wherever I have it to fit. So this case it worked better on the second line down. And then what I would do is I'd cross compare maybe with what I've shown here as far as a view, see if I missed anything. Have the quarter inch. I have see. I feel like I've actually done a little better dimensioning the second time around. As I sat and kind of drew with datums in mind, which I understand it just won't come clear to you until we really like next semester we really dive into that concept. But I will have planted these thought processes, and I liked that I went over to the right side a little bit better too because I do view that could be a right side view. So some of this I don't like as well. I probably have about all the same dimensions, but I think I've actually done better dimensioning it my second time. And that is the way of everything. And I have pretty much all the same dimensions. Um, maybe I've added, I don't even know if I've added anything. Yeah, I think I've just changed that 0.4 to from the center line, which I liked way better. So it's just a small difference, but this is, I would call this is good, but maybe I think I've just done better now. The only thing that's close is how close my center line is to my border. But I'm gonna leave it. That's two different viewports. We just need to add the note. So let's do that before I truly make it. And of course, change the date or the name. I'll call this one 10, 1108. The shaft. Right. Shaft guide. The 30th, my mother's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. I'll call you later. And note. So I'm going to do a note. I'm going to do a note on the text layer. I'm just going to use text layer for my notes, kind of like my title block notes are on the text layer. And then I'm going to do a multi-line. So on my annotate tab, I like to use, this is my access to a multi-line text. It's the same as if you access here though too, the multi-line text here. It'll be either or. And then I'm just going to like I'll just show I'm just going to write it out here and then I'll put it to fit. I'm just going to make a big box. I don't know how big I need, but and then I'm just so what I have to have is the note needs to be double the size. So you should have like when I'm in my note and it kind of turns into the old almost like a word processing document here. Uh Down here because I should have two different I should have maybe several different sizes here. Um so I think I can choose just to pick that the first text is going to be point 0.2. You should have it if you created your right text style you should have 0.2 as a height of text height, and that should be what note is written with, or maybe it's notes. What did I write? Whatever I've got written here. Maybe I'll pull this up on my. So it's notes with the colon. That's pretty standard. Notes with the colon, and then maybe I gotta click in here. Doesn't know that. Okay. Notes with the colon. Then I'm going to change my size to the 1/8 inch size because all the other text just be 1/8 inch. That's really the first time we've ever used the 0.2 size. And then I'm down here, and then I'm gonna put number one, and I think it'll auto do like a numbering system for you. I just put one period and space, and it kind of seems like this is a pretty smart text box that's going to create a kind of a list. And then I'm going to write these other things out: dimensions, and tolerances. Per ASME Y 14.5 dash. This is the version. So it's Y14.5 has been around since the 70s, I believe, since the 1970s. And it just every year, and I think they have a specific time where they revisit these. Maybe it's every 10 years, maybe it's every five. Some welding code books are every five. I don't know how often this one gets. I think about every 10 years because you'll see a lot of mine that say probably 2009. That was the version of code that we had at the time. And you could still write to an older version of code as long as you were following the rules of that code book, because that code book kind of does stand the test of time. But and so you might see people that are still working from older code books because they've been vetted and sometimes it takes companies a while to vet the new code book and to have to change their anything that's like new in the code book that applies to them. Sometimes they take a little while to roll that out. It can't take them years to roll that out. So they might still be working in the old code book for years, and then they decide at some point to roll into the new one. 2018 is the one that I have on my table. So I've tried to remember to change mine to because I'm sitting on codebook 2018 version here. There are always like minor changes that happen, but it's just like it's like this revision, you know, almost a decade at a time revisions, or sometimes even if they found an error, they probably do a spot revision. But it's just been going on since the 70s to revise this code to be even more and more accurate, especially as practices change a little bit too, with computer aided drafting and stuff. The code books have had to be updated. Okay, so that's what that says. That's the code book I'm following. That means every dimension really falls under that banner of control. It's not just a dimension. There's always a tolerance applied to a dimension. Even if you don't know it, there should be a general note carrying it. Remove, remove all burrs and sharp edges. Sharp. Like that. I don't think I really have to put a period at the end. I think I'm just leaving not. And then this is where I'm going to capture my rounds and fillets. I can see that my note is incorrect on the assignment. It should be rounds and fillets are an 1/8 inch radius, right? I think they are all. So just watch yourself. Rounds and fillets are actually a 0.125. And I don't have to really put inch on there. I mean, it wouldn't be maybe wrong if I did, but generally the title block will say units are all in inches. Our no, ours doesn't because it's really simple, but generally title blocks always have scales associated with them for sure. That's a critical thing that we don't have in ours either. The other thing they kind of carry is they'll usually carry a disclaimer that says what the units of measurements are. All units are inch or all units are millimeters. So when I have that like carried in the title block, usually like almost 100% of the time, that's where that will be carried, that general note of the units what we're in. Then I don't usually have to put the inches, right? Even on our dimensions, we don't have the inch mark on there at all because it's like this title block, which we don't have, I get it, is carrying what our units are in. So I'm not going to put the inch mark on here either. I'm just going to do like that. And then I'm just going to move this in. Maybe I'll double click in here and I'm just going to keep them all in kind of single lines like that. So I like that. And then this should have a grip, right? There's the grip for it. So I'll just grip it and pull it down into my corner. I don't usually snap it into there, but I just kind of put it generally in the corner like that. It could go anywhere, honestly. I think it's better to bundle it close to the title block in usually in some ways. Architectural title blocks are usually these vertical ones off to the right side of the drawing, right? If you're used to that from your first year, all your title block stuff is generally over here. It's with the mechanical, it's more often than it's the bottom right corner is kind of the title block area. Top right will be a revision block area. We'll start with probably next week. I think we have a revision block. So generally it kind of goes, it's not like an architectural print. Our title blocks are lower right, and they kind of almost sometimes take up the whole lower section of I feel like across the bottom of the print. So that's why I'm almost like envisioning that my title block will get bigger over time a little bit here to incorporate scale and units and maybe some other disclaimers here. Maybe the company that I work for and some other stuff. So it starts to fill up kind of the bottom quarter of your drawing area on most mechanical drafting sheets, especially the first sheet. They get simplified title blocks as you move throughout the sheet, maybe of a real print pack. But I'm happy with this. So if I control print this thing, I think this thing should be pretty much done with its note. So I'll save that, turn that thing in. That kind of ends this. So the one thing I will say is that this note I could put on my template. So I think I will. So what I would do if you wanted to do that and you've already written it there, you can actually just select it and do like the old Control C copy. Hold down Control, hit C. I've kind of copied that. If I open my template as a template, so I'm going to go to its template file where I have it saved. It's my inch one because it's kind of the inch title block. Technically, it'll work for both actually because I'm going to erase the fillet thing anyway when I drop it on my template. So my templates live here, and this is the 2025 inch one. There's my template. So I'm going to come in here maybe and just do it. I think I can just do a control V or control paste. There it is. I have a grip of it. So I can just drop it anywhere in here, right there. Great. I'm going to go in and modify this. I dropped it in. Oh, maybe I did it wrong. I think I had the viewport active. So I'm just going to control Z that thing maybe, or I don't know. Did I put it on the viewport? I don't know. Just, I'm not going to, I'm going to make sure I don't drop it in the viewport. I think I actually did it okay, but so there's that. Sure, I'll lock it in there. But I'm going to go in here on my template. I'm not going to put this line in, I don't think. I'm going to delete that one. And it's going to be ready to add another line. That's fine. I'm just going to put the two disclaimers that really apply to all drawings. So that one, and I'm going to go do it on my B-size sheet too, because it doesn't have it either. In fact, I need to do a little cleanup out here anyway. And then when I go to reuse this thing again, it'll already have the note already built. So I'll make sure I'm out of the viewport. Go ahead and do that Control V. I don't, sometimes the right click, I should have just copied it again without that line. Sorry. Should have thought ahead a little bit, but delete that, backspace it. Good. So now my template already has those preloaded. I like it. I'm going to save that onto my template. And I'm going to delete that. And then, or I'm going to close down my template, I should say. Okay, cool. I've updated my template with that. I still need to do the metric one, and I think we do another one with metric. And when I do that one, I'll move it over. So I'm gonna end this.